Someone said it deliberately. Polling stations have been vandalized. Campaign posters, President Samia Suluhu Hassan's face, repeated on every wall, are being turned down, ripped to pieces, thrown into fires. The commercial capital is unraveling, and it's only 3 p.m. By 6 o'clock, a curfew will be declared. By 7, the internet will go dark nationwide. By tomorrow, military boats will appear on streets everywhere, places they haven't been seen in decades. International flights will be cancelled. The US Embassy will order its personnel to shelter in place. And then will come the gunfire. 2 days later, no one can agree on how many people are dead. The United Nations says at least 10. Amnesty International counts at least 100. The main opposition party, Chadema, claims approximately 700, with about 350 in Dar es Salaam alone. Over 200 in Mwanza. Diplomatic sources speaking off the record say they could verify dozens. Meanwhile, the Tanzanian government stayed silent. No official casualty figures. No statements addressing the violence. Just provisional election results scrolling across state television. Hassan is winning by commanding margins. 10 deaths or 700. That's not the margin of error. That is a 70-fold gap. That is 2 different realities, 2 different countries, 2 completely incompatible versions of what just happened.
You over here eating.
Wow. Okay, do you want to?
And in that gap, in that space between 10 and 700, between what the government claims and what the opposition alleges, between what international observers can verify and what witnesses on the ground are saying, you can see the entire crisis unraveling before your very eyes. But how did we get here? How did a woman once praised as a reformer preside over one of the most systematic eliminations of democracy in modern African history? In this video, I want to examine what is really behind the revolution sweeping through Tanzania right now. The questions I have going into this one are many, but first, let's understand why the people are protesting. Who is behind this revolution? What are their demands? Who is Samia Suluhu, and why do Tanzanians want her out? Is she really a dictator? Who were the victims of her purge? And how is she responding to all of these protests? Most importantly, who benefits?
Wow. So you guys see what's happening in Tanzania. It's really all over every news station. That was an African brother. I'm not sure which country he was. And he was talking about how there are various different reports coming out. The other party, that I don't know what they're called. I'm not heavily into Tanzanian politics, but the other party, the opposition party, says there's like 700 people that have lost their lives around the country, but they're saying, no, that didn't happen. You know, I was looking at Instagram and our lawyer in Tanzania was making posts talking about, you can't just silence us. Kenya's getting in it, the Kenyans, because they had their own protest last year this time.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're like, this needs to happen. There is a lot going on in East Africa. And we were just thinking like, wow, we left East Africa, Tanzania 2 years ago, and we left at the right time.
Yeah, for sure. It's this is very important. And I know when we first came to Tanzania, I want to say, was that 2020? It was an election that year.
Yeah, we came right at election time.
Yeah. And that's when Magufuli was in power. And everybody was like, don't go outside, don't go to the neighborhood store and stuff like that, because people could be protesting and things like this. And at that time, it wasn't that, I guess, that serious, because Magufuli he was a good
he had most of the people liked him.
Yeah.
So you didn't have a lot of protests in Tanzania. You had,
Exactly.
you know, some people would protest, but it wasn't the way, you know, you see fires, you see cars on fire. I don't know if y'all really following this, but we
Yeah.
do because we live in Africa. We're following it very intently. Used to literally like some of these streets we see on the videos, we're like, oh wow, we used to drive this way, we used to go this route. We know, hey, you can't even get on this street, you can't go because the way that the actual country is set up, there are main stores that you can't access. You can't access the airport because the protesters are all over the road that would lead you to the airport because they're having these fires. And so Gen Z is like, we're not dealing with corruption no more. And you can't fault them. You can't be mad at them because they get to a point where they just snap. And it's like if they feel like there's no hope for the future, they feel like they have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
And, you know, when your back's against the wall, you feel like you have nothing to lose. You're willing to do anything until something changes. And I think it's really interesting. We have a few articles up. I think we're going to get to those a little bit later. So if you're here, stay in the room because we also have travel warnings going out globally, telling people of various countries, Australia, everybody telling their people do not go there. We have the EU deploying something called the Election Observer Commission. I don't know what that means, if they're going to like fly in people from the EU. Well, actually, a lot of EU people are already there. So they may already be setting that up. And then the EU literally globally slammed Tanzania for their elections. And so I think this is an ongoing issue that you're going to see come out and continue to be an issue for the next couple of weeks and a year into the future, because once one area in Africa is destabilized, a lot of times it destabilizes that whole region. But Tanzania used to be such a peaceful place. So it's like, man, when they're tired, I'm telling you, they just snapped. They couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah, you gotta take in consideration when people say, you know, don't go to a country when they're doing elections. This is a prime example because it gets real. You know, people think that, and this is why we say corruption is pretty much everywhere, but this type of corruption is going to be right in your face, and you know, you got to be careful when you are traveling. You really do. You have to be careful because exactly there's bodies and stuff like that that just pops up. So you just gotta try. You gotta be wise in these last days, like really, especially in these times that we are in right now. Look, it's a big shift that's happening right now, and I know you guys can feel it. So you know, it's serious. This is serious. This is very very serious. You wanna play it?
Mm-hmm. Gotta unmute it.
For 2 generations, CCM was Tanzania and Tanzania was CCM. But then in 2021, something changed.
Kuitetea Katiba ya Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania.
It is March 19th, 2021. Samia Suluhu Hassan is being sworn in as Tanzania's 6th president. She's crying, her voice breaking as she takes the oath of office. Her predecessor, John Magufuli, died suddenly 2 days ago. Heart complications, the government says. Though there are whispers no one dares say out loud, that it was COVID, the disease Magufuli spent his final years denying existed. Hassan is 61, a former clerk, a mother of 4, a woman who worked her way up through education and persistence in a system that didn't make space for women like her. And now, she's Tanzania's first female president. In her address to the nation, she promises something different. The 4 R's, she calls them: reconciliation, resilience, reforms, rebuilding. And at first, she delivers. July 2021, COVID vaccines start arriving. Magufuli had banned even mentioning the pandemic. Hassan soon joins COVAX, starts distribution. Media bans are lifted. Outlets that had been silenced for years can broadcast again. Political prisoners are released. And then in January 2023, the 6-year ban on political rallies is lifted.
Are you ready to see the world, but you are overwhelmed with the stress of planning? Well, EF Ultimate Break is going to take all of the stress away from you and make it happen.
Opposition parties can now hold public gatherings for the first time since 2016. International observers are celebrating. Western diplomats are praising her pragmatism. Development partners are increasing engagement. Hassan's soft-spoken style, her emphasis on dialogue, her collaborative approach. It all suggests Tanzania is emerging from Magufuli's shadow into something more open, more democratic. Mama Samia, they start calling her, a term of respect, of hope. But watch what happens next. By mid-2023, something begins to shift.
Literally watch what happens next. This really shows you how quickly Africa can flip if you don't understand what's happening. Okay, if you're in the country and you don't speak to locals, or you're mostly around expats, or you're not understanding the difficulties locals are facing. We, being in Tanzania, knew 2025 was going to be a wild election year. We didn't know it would be like that. Like, it's literally a global event now. But we knew, like, yeah, we had seen the 2020 elections. We were like, yeah, 2025 is going to be an interesting year, because we were in local communities, because we were building in the villages, because we were amongst people that would tell you what's going on. And people would just straight up say, they were like, we don't like this. We feel stuck. We feel like this is a big issue. There are certain regions where they would say, hey, corruption is increasing again. This was after about 2023. They would start saying, hey, corruption is coming back, but it's coming more heavily now. Like, we don't know what to do. These were the conversations Tanzanians would have with us, from very powerful attorneys to just local people. So you have most the population of Tanzania that actually felt that way. In fact, if you are familiar with Tanzania, you may know Diamond Platinum. He's like the main rapper of Tanzania. And he literally had to like come out on Instagram and denounce that he supported the president, because they were going to basically set his home on fire if he did not come out and denounce it. So once Gen Z in Africa is tired, they're tired. And remember, Africa is a very young continent. The continent of Africa, the average person is about 24 years old, maybe 26, depending on the country. So you have all these people, the vast majority of them are younger people that feel like there's no jobs, no opportunities. They're seeing the Chinese, they're seeing Arabs, they're seeing the Lebanese, they're seeing the European Union come in and have all of these direct investment opportunities, but they're feeling like they're getting left out, right? And so that causes a lot of issues, on top of the fact that in East Africa, corruption is very, very, very rampant compared to the Southern Africa region as a whole. So let's see what he's talking about next. Again, this is The Fall of Africa's Most Feared Female Dictator, Samia Suluhu, by Jude Bila. Okay, fair use.
Shift. She brings back Magufuli era hardliners to her government. Cabinet reshuffle, then another 4 times in 2024 alone. A frantic pace that suggests either internal power struggles or deliberate purging of anyone who took the reform rhetoric seriously. In August 2024, she dismisses ministers who had advocated for greater political openness. She appoints Paul Makonda to a prominent position, a man the US State Department has sanctioned for documented human rights violations. The democratic opening is narrowing, then closing, then slamming shut entirely. By October 2025,
Want to start a podcast but not sure how? Riverside has got you covered. First,
the hope that first greeted her had cuddled into something else entirely. October 29, 2025. It is morning. Polling stations are opening. Hassan is facing 16 candidates. Their names are on the ballot, their faces on posters in some neighborhoods. But the truth is that none of these guys are household names. None have substantial campaign infrastructure. None have the resources or recognition to mount a serious challenge. By multiple accounts, they barely campaigned at all. Meanwhile, something is strangely missing from these ballots. Someone is missing. Where was Chadema, the Party for Democracy and Progress, Tanzania's main opposition party, the political force that won 40% in the 2015 presidential election? The organization that has spent 3 decades building grassroots support across the country. They were disqualified on April 12, 2025. officially barred from participating in the election for, quote, refusing to sign an electoral code of conduct the party deemed fundamentally rigged. This is Tundu Lissu, Chadema's charismatic chairman, a lawyer and former member of parliament. In 2017, he was shot 16 times in a failed assassination attempt outside his home in Dodoma. He would later spend years in Belgian exile before returning to lead Tanzania's pro-democracy movement. He was one of the characters the people looked forward to seeing on the ballot. However, on April 9, 2025, Tundu Lissu was arrested and sent to prison, charged with high treason, a capital offense carrying a possible death penalty for giving speeches.
That's a lot. So he said treason can possibly carry the death penalty. He was arrested in April 2025. This guy does really good documentaries because I didn't know the details as much as he broke it down.
Mm-hmm.
But you're starting to see like, okay, that's if people of that population know that's happening, then it's like no wonder. I didn't know he had got shot 16, or they had attempted to shoot him with 16 different bullets.
Yeah,
That's a lot. That's like Ibrahim Traore when they try to knock him. Wow, that's a lot. And obviously, he didn't feel safe in East Africa, because here's the thing with East Africa: if he would have went to Kenya, they would have still got him. If he would have went to Rwanda, if he would have went to Congo, so this man felt like he had to go all the way to Europe to have safety.
Yeah, you gotta pay attention. This is something that is very important when you're choosing a African country to live in, right? You got to pay attention to the leader, because I just saw something that the Kenyan, so I guess recently the Tanzania, the country, they turned on the internet just to announce that she recently won 97%. Get what I'm saying? 97% of the population chose Mama Samia, and they turned it off after that, right? So
The internet.
the internet, the Kenyan president actually congratulated her, saying like, glad that you won and stuff like that. So that should kind of tell some people some things where it's just like, you just got to be careful. You got to pay attention to the politics and stuff like that. I know when we are in America, we really don't pay attention to stuff like that, and it's not that important. But when you are coming out of America to move to a different country, you have to pay attention. So if you, I guess it's like this: if you pay attention to like the Mexicans and the Chinese and people coming to America, right? They're going to be very knowledgeable about what's going on in the country. So you got to be doing the same thing when you move outside of America. You have to. You got to pay attention to what's going on with Rwanda.
I almost forgot Rwanda.
Yeah.
Because it's in East Africa.
Namibia?
Namibia is in Southern Africa.
But yeah, you just got to pay attention to what's really, really going on, because this stuff could affect you. Just imagine if you are right there in the city, you get an apartment in the city and then you can't go outside because they're protesting 24/7. Because
you're seeing fires on the street.
Yeah, they when they go in, they really go in. They will be out there 24/7.
Africans are dude. Look, they don't look, especially the younger ones. They're not playing. They're not playing. Because for them, it's very personal. For us in America, it may not be as personal. We're not from America, or at least, our ancestry isn't. But for them, their tribe has been here hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. Their people have been in these countries hundreds of thousands of hundreds and hundreds of thousands and thousands of years. They know the history, they know their genealogies, they know the story. And so it's like, if they don't stand up, they feel like nothing good will happen. That's how they feel. And you could see how, from like an American perspective, most Americans are immigrants, whether they're white or black, they're immigrants.
When you really think about it, yeah.
So it's a totally different, there's a detachment that American citizens feel to American politics to an extent. You may not realize that in America, but once you come to Africa, you're going to see. Once you look at some of these countries like Nepal in Asia, you're going to see the Nepalians, I don't know how you say it, but the citizens of Nepal, same thing. They've been there generation, hundreds and thousands of years. And so they take that very personally. If their grandparents tell them, oh, it didn't used to be like this, y'all have to do something. If people start, talking like that, that's how they talk in countries like Africa or like countries in Asia, where the population has been there for such a long time. Same thing in France. France had protests. The French have been in France for hundreds of thousands of that. So it's a little bit different than somewhere like America or somewhere like Canada, where people immigrated and the natives don't even exist that much anymore.
Yeah.
It's a totally different mind.
Yeah. You just gotta kind of put your mindset on, when America got its independence, the first 60 years, what happened in that time frame? The first 100 years, put it like that, what happened in that time frame? And Africa's pretty much doing the same thing. Pretty much everywhere in Africa, me personally, I think it might happen to a lot of African countries like Burkina Faso. So, it's going to be that right leader that's going to, stand up for the people.
Yeah, it's long overdue.
Calling for electoral reforms. Over 200 international lawyers assembled for his defense, recognizing immediately the political nature of his prosecution. But this guy is not alone on the strange absentee list. Luhuga Mpina, the ACT was a Lendo party candidate, a former CCM minister who had defected in August 2025 after publicly criticizing President Hassan's government. He stands disqualified twice. First on August 26 for allegedly not meeting party membership requirements. Then when Tanzania's High Court overturned that disqualification on September 11th, ruling it unconstitutional.
This AI tool will
Guess what? The Electoral Commission simply disqualified him again on September 15th for procedural irregularities. The election that was meant to be Samia Suluhu's first since inheriting the presidency has taken a controversial turn, where it appears she's choosing her opponents and getting rid of those she doesn't want to run against. Freedom House, the international organization that tracks democratic freedoms worldwide, downgraded Tanzania from partly free to not free in 2024. Ironically, this downgrade didn't happen under Magufuli, the president widely criticized as authoritarian. It happened under Hassan, a woman praised as a reformer. Tanzania joined a grim category, nations where elections are held but citizens are not free. The question formed in the minds of observers, journalists, and ordinary Tanzanians soon became, how did a woman, once celebrated as Tanzania's first female president, as a symbol of democratic possibility, preside over this systematic dismantling of political competition? The answer lies in what happened in the months before October 29, in the pattern of disappearances, torture, and elimination that created what activists would call a wave of terror. To understand why Tanzanians believe Samia Suluhu systematically eliminated her opponents from the race, you need to observe the timeline of these events leading up to the election. These events didn't happen in isolation. They built systematically toward October 29th. First, on April 9th, 2025, Tundu Lissu stood before supporters at a rally in Mbinga, advocating for Tanzanians, no reforms, no elections. This was his campaign. His message was straightforward. Without fundamental changes to electoral laws, without an independent electoral commission, without constitutional reforms limiting executive power, any election would be illegitimate. Well, that evening, the police arrested him. He was soon charged with high treason and 3 counts of publishing false information under the Cybercrimes Act. A speech at a rally that was meant to be criticism of the government or advocacy for institutional reform, especially since Tanzania is a democracy. was now considered an offense against the state. 3 days after Lisso's arrest, electoral authorities officially disqualified Chadema from participating in elections. The stated reason given was that the party refused to sign an electoral code of conduct. Well, the actual reason was that the party's leadership recognized that code as designed to constrain opposition, while giving the ruling party unlimited operational freedom. Then the disappearances accelerated. On July 26, 2024, Dionys Kipanya, a Chadema youth activist, disappeared after police arrest. His family filed reports. His colleagues organized searches. His whereabouts remained.
Can we just empathize for a moment and pretend that we were his colleagues, pretend we knew this man? Because there are Tanzanians there that knew him. And so you have to imagine how they feel. This is somebody, their friend, their brother, their, whoever. And can you imagine? They go missing. The government's taking them. In America, there's also corrupt politics, but usually your brother ain't just gonna get taken. Like Kamala Harris's brother ain't just gonna go missing, right? Barron Trump ain't just gonna go missing like that. They're gonna have conversations. And so the youth of Gen Z in this global world, they see how other continents and countries function. It's not a secret anymore. When you have the internet everywhere, they see how non-corrupt countries in Africa are functioning. They see how Asia is functioning, not necessarily like a Nepal, but maybe like a Thailand or somewhere like that, or a Singapore. They see how other areas are functioning and they're like, I think we deserve some functionality. That's how that generation feels.
Main unknown. August 18, 2024. Jules Dedi Soka, Chadema Temeke youth leader, vanished while planning demonstrations. The same day, Jacob Godwin Ule, Chadema's Temeke secretary, was abducted. Both remain missing. But one case would break through the wall of silence. It would become impossible for even Tanzania's censored media to ignore. On September 6, 2024, Ali Mohammed Kibao, a 69-year-old senior Chadema member and former military intelligence officer, boarded a bus traveling from Dar es Salaam to Tanga. Witnesses reported that armed men in white Land Cruisers, vehicles matching those used by Tanzanian police, surrounded the bus suddenly at a checkpoint. They dragged Kibao off in front of dozens of passengers who could do nothing but watch. On September 7, 2024, his body was found in Nunyu, a district of Dar es Salaam. The post-mortem examination documented severe beatings, torture, and acid burns on his face. The acid was allegedly poured on him while still alive, making identification deliberately difficult.
So many stars are in the making.
That's just crazy. That's insane. That's like some stuff you would hear in Mexico with the cartel.
This seemed like a message. President Hassan publicly ordered an investigation. The US Embassy called for independent, transparent investigation, noting that murder and disappearances of this kind should have no place in a democracy. International human rights organizations demanded accountability. However, no arrests have been made, no findings published, no accountability delivered. The pattern was unmistakable. The United Nations Working Group on Enforced or Involuntary Disappearances documented over 200 cases since 2019, with sharp acceleration under Hassan's presidency. The Tanganyika Law Society confirmed 83 disappearances since Hassan took office in 2021. The Legal and Human Rights Center tallied approximately 100 cases between 2015 and February 2025. Armed men, unmarked vehicles, opposition figures targeted, youth activists, party officials, critics of government policy, all vanishing into a system where courts ruled detention unlawful, but no one faced consequences, where investigation was promised but never delivered. In the 25 days before October 29, Chadema documented 52 abductions, but the purge didn't stop with opposition members. It crossed a line that shocked even those familiar with CCM's methods. On October 6, 2025, Humphrey Hezron Popo disappeared from his home in Ununu, Dar es Salaam. Pole Pole wasn't an opposition leader. He was a former CCM stalwart, former ambassador to Cuba and Malawi, former secretary for ideology, propaganda, and training.
Wow, that's crazy. So this guy, Humphrey, they say he was a Tanzania ambassador to Cuba. He wasn't even the opposition. He was in the same party. And I didn't even realize. So we left in late 2023, early 2024, like literally January. And it seems like after that point, they went on a rampage. Because I didn't realize all that. I didn't know like the 83 people since a certain year, all these people just this year. I'm kind of in shock. But this is why it's so important that you are sensitive to the Most High Spirit, that you are in tune with people who are listening to His Spirit, that you have discernment, because it can save your life. Because the thing right now is that people, even expats, are basically under a lockdown. So they just have to stay inside. Sometimes the internet cuts on, it cuts off. Even right now, people have reached out to us via email. Then we know a lot of people in Tanzania. So I've messaged people. The internet for a lot of them won't even go through, Tanzanians as well. Some of the people, if they're more like corporate attorneys or they're more like up to knowing about VPNs and stuff like that, they've been able to send a few messages. But if they're like more local people, can't even get through to them. There are expats in Arusha, can't even get through to them. The protests are happening in Arusha, Dar es Salaam, Tunduma. We've been to Tunduma. Obviously, we lived in Dar es Salaam, have not been to Arusha, lived in Tonga. And so it's just kind of crazy and surreal that we left on time. It's like after that, it really just, I guess maybe it was like a greed thing. It really reminds me of this story in the Bible. I don't know if you guys knew about Jezebel's daughter, Queen Athaliah. She basically killed the whole lineage of Judah so that only her favorite son could be king. Like, that's literally crazy.
It really just goes down to because I remember it was a time when she was accepting all the loans and stuff from COVID that the bigger countries will offer, right? And then all of a sudden they get a shipment of 80 to 100 SUVs for the cabinet, for her cabinet. And okay, we see that, and then we start to realize, like, dang, they was not playing. They was just doing it out in the open. They was snatching people up. Don't matter who it is, we just gonna do it. So it's literally that corruption or it's the corruption where they don't care to be judged by the Most High, because it's out there, and it's like nobody can stop them.
Right.
Like that boldness. It really is really getting down to that. If a leader's like that over a country, that country gonna be judged. And we felt that when we was dealing with what we had to deal with in Tanzania. We left and we was like, I'm telling my local buddies, like, we gotta leave. Like, this place, I can just feel this place about to be judged. We gotta go because they're treating people wrong and it's not right.
Mm-hmm.
Even no matter how you make sense of the situations that you are in, they snatch people up.
Yeah.
Off the bus.
That should tell you.
And if you ever been in Africa taking buses, there's local people in there, and there's professional people too. So it's just like it's crazy to think about. Like I can't even imagine just being on the bus seeing that. Like, I really can't. It'll just be like, you want to do something, but you can't. Because you just don't know their mindset. Their mindset, like, I don't care about you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care who you are. We just going to snatch you up and do what we got to do.
Yeah, it's just a disdain for humanity all across the board is what it comes down to.
It really gets back to, it gets real deep too. So you just got to pay attention. You got to keep up what's going on. That's why the Most High says, stay set apart. You got to be set apart, because this stuff, it will, like, yeah, you just got to be set apart.
within the ruling party, a man who had dedicated decades to CCM service. Well, in July 2025, Polepole had resigned from his ambassadorship and published a statement criticizing Hassan's government for placing individual interests ahead of institutional integrity.
We have got to the point where literally anybody can build a fully working app without knowing how to code. This is based.
He reportedly spoke of corruption, of democratic backsliding, of principles betrayed. When family members entered his residence on October 6th, they found broken doors, electrical wires cut, and large amounts of blood throughout the house. Polepole was gone. His sister Christina had been abducted 3 months earlier on July 17th, beaten and questioned about Humphrey's whereabouts, a warning he apparently didn't heed. The family filed habeas corpus petition. On October 24th, Tanzania's High Court dismissed it, stating there was no evidence the government was responsible. Amnesty International expressed being deeply alarmed that Humphrey might have been forcibly disappeared and possibly assaulted. Well, his current status remains unclear. There are conflicting reports suggesting he may be dead, but nobody has been recovered. No official statement issued either. The Humphreys case sent a message more chilling than any opposition disappearance. Even CCM members weren't safe. Even decades of party loyalty offered no protection. Dissent from any quarter would be met with violence. And then came August 11th to 12th, 2024. Authorities arrested over 500 Chadema supporters in Mbeya ahead of International Youth Day celebrations. An additional 107 arrests occurred in Iringa the same day. The celebrations never happened. September 23, 2024, police arrested approximately 60 people in Dar es Salaam ahead of protests against the disappearances. The protests had been banned. The arrest preempted any demonstration. The pattern was systematic. Identify potential resistance, eliminate it before it materializes. Use state violence to create a climate of fear so comprehensive that ordinary citizens practice self-censorship, not because they are told to, but because they have internalized the cost of speaking. By October 29, 2025, when voting began, Tanzania's opposition had been decapitated, leaders jailed or missing, grassroots organizers disappeared, party structures banned, youth movements infiltrated and arrested, media censored. This seemed like a fixed election even before the first vote was cast. When the morning of the voting arrived, with muted anticipation, some already knew what was going to happen. Polling stations opened across Tanzania. Hassan faced only token opposition. Those 16 candidates from minor parties, none with resources or recognition to mount a serious challenge. Early reports indicated low turnout, particularly among youth. Many young Tanzanians simply stayed home, recognizing the futility of voting in elections without real choice. Others cast ballots while expressing skepticism their vote meant anything. Then in the afternoon, the streets of Dar es Salaam ignited. It started in pockets. Mbagala, Gongolamboto, Kiluvia. Hundreds of predominantly young people took to the streets. They blocked roads with burning tires. They vandalized polling stations. They tore down campaign posters bearing Hassan's image. They chanted, quote, "We want our country back." The movement quickly spread. Mwanza, Tanzania's second largest city on Lake Victoria's shores. Arusha, the Safari Gateway in the north. Morogoro, Dodoma, smaller towns across the mainland. Even Namanga, the border town with Kenya, saw demonstrations spill across international boundary. Security forces responded with tear gas. When tear gas failed to disperse crowds, they escalated to live ammunition. Witnesses reported sporadic gunfire throughout Dar es Salaam's protest zones. People ran, people fell. In the chaos, with no independent journalists allowed to cover events, with internet connectivity already beginning to fail, accurate documentation became nearly impossible. By 6 p.m., Inspector General of Police Camillus Wambura declared a curfew.
That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot. There's a lot of protests all over. And I think it kind of started as a social media movement, so to speak, where they would just try to do it on social media. The thing about African countries, word will get around without technology. They're going to talk. They're going to have the same message from one city to another, from one village to another, from one area to another. Somehow they're going to find a way to get that message out. And it looks like Gen Z did it. Like they did it. And more countries are coming out with these flight warnings to Tanzania. Again, as of what we know right now, expats, foreigners are still functionally trapped in Tanzania. There are no flights going in the country, no flights going out of the country. So this is why we say it's super important that you understand which countries you are going to in Africa.
Yeah, because that's like wow, like even to get to Zanzibar, because the ferry
They shut down.
the ferry to Dar es Salaam is right there in the city.
Yes.
So I'm pretty sure there's no ferries going to Zanzibar
There's not.
or coming back. So it's just like, dang, people really get in situations like this. Yeah, you just got to do your research. You really got to have a plan, because especially during election season. So if you don't know, election season is very important.
If you don't know,
You know, this is what we say in the mature adult intensive too.
yeah.
Do your research for a year, for the last 12 months, on the politics in the country that you choose, so you can get an idea of what's going on. Because that well, it doesn't blow my mind, because I, like, for me, I know 97% of people voted for her, when the whole country of like the cities, Dar es Salaam, Mbeya, Iringa, Mombasa. No,
That's in Kenya.
No,
in Mbeya.
It's two of them, right?
No, Mombasa's in
It's
Kenya.
in Tanzania and Kenya.
No, Mombasa's in Kenya.
But yeah, Tanga, Arusha, like pretty much that's Dodoma, everywhere in Tanzania, the cities is protesting.
All over.
But she won 97%. So that tells you, I mean, at least America does like a 47, 53 or something like that, 49, 51 split or something like that.
To make you feel like it's something like,
they say
nah,
97%.
Africa, not all of Africa. Let me correct myself. East Africa, countries like Cameroon, countries like that, because Cameroon's going through the same thing, Madagascar, countries like that where corruption is super, super rampant. Gen Z said they not with the corruption no more. They said, y'all older ones, y'all were with the corruption. That was nice for y'all, but we're going to need a new future. And, you got to think these people in Gen Z have also seen Ibrahim Traore.
Yeah.
They listen to this man's speeches. And this man, he says, y'all need to be righteous. Literally, Burkina Faso is called the land of the upright. So that since 2022, when he came out, tells them, okay, we need to be right. Again, Kenya had protests. Their protests last year were because they didn't like the high taxes that William Ruto, their president, was about to put on them. So they protested, and I believe they were able to stop the taxes. That wasn't even an election. Kenya was shooting them, and we were looking at it like, man, that's pretty bad. But seeing what's happening right now in Tanzania is much worse.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that.
I see a lot of posts on like social media. They was like Kenyans was commenting under what's going on in Tanzania. They was like, yeah, at least, well, it's still bad, but they were saying at least the police will shoot Kenyans in the leg and not just like really, off them. It's like, whoa.
Yeah, throwing acid on people when they're alive. That's like that sounds like some Mexican cartel stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
that's not something
when you think about it, it really is, and it just really breaks down to like a spiritual warfare, like over the land. You gotta think about that too. It just goes down to spiritual.
That's true.
It all comes that's the first thing, spiritual.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you also have to make sure you're following the right people.
And yeah,
Because if you follow the wrong people and you're just caught up like that, nobody can help people right now.
Yeah.
The U.S. Embassy can't give you like a super quick flight out because there's no flights going out.
Yeah, they're gonna be like, you're gonna have to wait.
They're gonna say stay home, shelter in place. You can't even go to the main stores. But the good thing about Tanzania, typically you'll have like a tomato stand or avocado stand that's close by your house, hopefully, so you don't have to go on the main road. So you should, depending on where they're at, they could be decent. People in areas like Morogoro are safe because that's off grid, not the main city. This is also why we don't live in main cities. We don't do main cities. Avoid the main cities. There's just too much.
The corruption is real.
It's chaos.
The corruption is super real. And this is why exactly we say go to the least corrupt countries.
Yeah, we don't say it for fun.
Go to where it makes sense.
Yeah, you gotta make it make sense.
Make it make sense, because I know we were having a conversation the other day about these visas cost and stuff like that. So you'll pay a high visa cost, like 200, 300, 500, whatever it is, and then you will get 30 days, 60 days. And it's like, huh? This don't make sense. I mean, if you got the funds like that, go ahead. But I guess it's just I guess people have different lives.
No, it's going to be more corrupt. The countries that are most corrupt have super high visa fees. The cheapest visa fees you're going to find in Africa.
Visa free.
Yeah, visa free, like Mauritius, not Namibia, Botswana, Seychelles, South Africa. Visa free for Americans, 3 to 6 months, you get an extension, boom. Besides those, Rwanda and Zambia, between $30 and $50. Even Namibia, they have a visa fee, but it's like $30.
Which makes sense.
Don't go to these countries where it's $150, $200 for a visa fee. That's telling you right there, there's a lot of extortion and corruption in place. I'm telling you, because we've lived it. We're on year 6 in Africa at this rate. Straight, not going back and forth anywhere. Just in Africa.
Gotta have a strategy.
The streets after 6 o'clock would be arrested, or worse. The nationwide internet shutdown became total. NetBlocks, an organization monitoring internet freedom globally, confirmed this disruption. Mobile data services failed. Social media platforms that weren't banned before were now inaccessible. There were reports that X, Telegram, and Clubhouse had been blocked for months. Now, Jamii Forums, Tanzania's popular local discussion platform, went dark. Foreign journalists had been banned from covering the election on the mainland. Access to major television stations was cut. State media continued broadcasting as normal, showing provisional results. Hassan winning commanding majorities in constituency after constituency. And then came October 30th, when the military entered the picture. This represented significant escalation. Tanzania had largely avoided military involvement in domestic politics for decades.
When you're
Military boots patrolled streets of the commercial capital. Army vehicles blockaded major roads. Checkpoints appeared at key intersections, at routes leading to the airports, at government buildings. Army Chief General Jacob John Nkunda appeared on state television. His statement was brief and pointed. He said, quote, "Some individuals took on the streets on October 29 and engaged in criminal activities. These are criminals, and such actions must be halted immediately." Criminals, he said, not protesters, not citizens, not young people demanding their democratic rights. Criminals. The characterization mattered. It justified the violence that followed. It framed lethal force not as state repression, but as law enforcement. Work from home orders were extended for civil servants. Schools and universities postponed reopening indefinitely. International flights were cancelled. Airports in Arusha and near Kilimanjaro closed entirely. The US Embassy soon issued a shelter-in-place order for all personnel, instructing American citizens to avoid downtown Dar es Salaam entirely. October 31st, 3 days into the crisis, provisional results continued streaming across state television. Hassan winning overwhelmingly. CCM securing parliamentary seats by massive margins. In semi-autonomous Zanzibar, CCM's presidential candidate won with 78.8%, a result the opposition parties immediately declared massive fraud. And the death toll, that is where the story fractures into competing realities. Chadema, the banned opposition party operating on the ground and through diaspora networks, claimed approximately 700 people have been killed so far, 350 in Dar es Salaam alone, over 200 in Mwanza. The party spokesman John Kitoka told AFP journalists that the actual figure could be higher because killings might be occurring during curfew hours. The United Nations Human Rights Office reported receiving credible reports of at least 10 deaths in Dar es Salaam, Shinyanga, and Morogoro. Amnesty International documented at least 100 fatalities by October 31st, though later estimates suggested the organization considered this a conservative minimum. Diplomatic sources cited by multiple international news agencies indicated credible evidence pointing to dozens of deaths, though they declined to provide specific figures on the record. As for the Tanzanian government, it remains silent. No acknowledgement of deaths. No statement addressing the violence either. Foreign Minister Mahmoud Habib Kombo would later claim in a message to diplomatic missions that the government had no official figures and that he had not seen these 700 anywhere. The gap between these figures is stunning. From the UN's confirmed minimum of 10 to the opposition's claim of 700 represents a 74 difference. This is not a margin of error. That is information warfare. Multiple hospitals and health clinics, when contacted by journalists, stated they were too afraid to talk. Medical professionals feared retaliation if they provided casualty data. The internet blackout meant no social media documentation either. No citizen journalism, no independent.
To me, it's crazy how scared the medical people are, like the nurses, the doctors. They're like, we don't want to be in it. We don't want y'all coming for us. They probably have a real good idea because they've been treating the people. Obviously, if you are about to pass away, you go to the hospital. Yeah. And healthcare is pretty affordable in Tanzania. And so they know, but they're like, I don't want to say anything. Sometimes that silence that you see is fear and this tension, but it's like at some point the lion is going to be awakened. At some rate, humans can only take so much abuse for so long. And it's up to you. Do you believe Chadema, that political party, has said 700 people? They said it could actually be more than that are gone.
Yeah,
or do you believe the government, the UN, that's like, it's probably just 10 people?
Yeah, you just gotta.
Really? Is it?
You gotta know what's going on, because what's going to happen after this? Because this is a good video, so I'm glad that we are playing this and you guys can see it, because this really put in perspective of a lot of things. So after this, who is going to step up and say something about it? The people that's going to be that could actually do something. That's what you have to pay attention to too. So this stuff, it's really serious. So I know this information is going to blow past a lot of people. A lot of people's going to forget about it, but it's happening in real life. It's affecting real people, and people are afraid to say anything, because I just, me personally, I know that people work hard to keep their jobs, especially in these African countries. So I can understand them, like, no, I got my family to feed. I can't, especially like a doctor, just think about that. That's some good money in the country of Tanzania for the local people. So yeah, they don't want to lose anything that they built. So it's just like, wow. Now what? Like, who's going to step up to the plate?
Yeah.
And really say something, because you see the what was it, the EU?
Yeah, the EU.
They were saying 10 people.
No, sorry, the UN.
Oh, the
UN. EU, to separate. The United Nations is like the entire, not the entire world, the entire Western world. The EU is just Europe, but some of them that are included is Switzerland. Switzerland has close ties to Tanzania. They came out and denounced everything that's happening. The EU. The United Nations said, oh, it's probably just 10 people. So two different opinions on the topic.
It's just you gotta have the discernment. You gotta make sense of it. Please, just make sense of it.
Yeah, and I want to read a post that our attorney in Tanzania did. I think it was really nice. She said, Tanzania is a beautiful nation, but right now many citizens are feeling anxious and unheard. The rising cost of living and limited space for open dialogue are taking a toll on our mental health and unity. May our leaders remember that peace thrives where people are free to speak and be listened to. True peace is not the absence of noise, it's the presence of justice, freedom, and fairness. I think justice being the most important one of all those. The government must listen to its people because silence only grows stress, not progress. Let's choose dialogue, not fear. So that's just like how Tanzanians are feeling, essentially.
Yeah, and
That's our Tanzanian attorney. She's real good with the anti-corruption stuff.
just my opinion.
Very well connected.
I hear this worldwide. It's gonna happen worldwide pretty soon. These next couple of years, because a lot of people are getting fed up. Just think about the Boston Tea Party. When they was like
For
raising
taxes?
yeah for taxes like 2% or something like that. They's going crazy. So just think about that. Like it's getting to that point where people are really starting to be fed up, and they're gonna have to come together and stand up to the big guy.
Yep.
Verification. Foreign journalists were banned from coverage. Domestic media faced censorship, and the government provided no transparency. Democratic governments facing crisis typically acknowledge casualties, promise investigations, and seek to rebuild public trust through transparency. Authoritarian governments suppress information, create competing narratives, ensure the truth remains forever contested. Well, in the darkness of Tanzania's internet blackout, truth became the first casualty of this crisis. And without truth, without agreed facts, without baseline reality, how can a nation heal? How can perpetrators be held accountable? How can victims' families find justice? The answer is they can't, which is precisely the point. And here is why this matters. This isn't just about Tanzania now. The crisis unfolding in East Africa's second largest economy represents something larger, something that extends beyond one country's borders, one president's decision, one election's outcome. Consider the demographics, for example. 65% of the East African community's population is under 30 years old. Projections indicate 75% will be under 25 by 2030. This isn't a youthful population. It is a generational tsunami. Millions of young people across Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, Tanzania, Burundi entering political awareness in an era of social media, global connectivity, and visibility of the
I just want to highlight what he said real quick. This is like listen. He's basically telling you, and if you follow this is why we say follow East African media if you are going to travel there. He's telling you this is going to boil over into Kenya, possibly Rwanda, could boil over into Burundi. It's going to take over all of East Africa. If you look at some of the most corrupt countries in Africa, you're going to see South Sudan and Uganda on that list. These countries are in East Africa. Just let the East Africans will tell you, if you have listening ears, what's going on, if you actually empathize with them. But if you are too prideful and you're like, oh, I know everything, it's not, then you're not going to hear the truth. You're not going to hear them pleading for peace and justice. You're going to hear whatever else you want to hear. Yeah. That's made up in your mind.
Because that's what it is. Truth matters. And if you can just discern truth, you'll be okay.
That's good. Discern truth. You need that on a t-shirt.
Democratic standards practiced elsewhere. These young people watch each other every day. They learn from each other's movements. They coordinate across borders through platforms their governments struggle to control. In Kenya, for instance, The Gen Z protests erupted in 2024 against President William Ruto's government over corruption, economic mismanagement, and perceived disconnection from ordinary people's struggles. Young Kenyans took to the streets, organized through social media, demanded accountability from leadership that had governed in increasingly detached manner. In Uganda, Bobby Wine, a musician turned politician, leads the People Power movement against Yoweri Museveni's 40-year rule. Despite violent suppression, despite arrest and torture, despite Wine himself being shot and brutalized, the movement persists because it taps into generational frustration with this bad leadership plaguing Africa. In Mozambique, post-election violence in 2024 left dozens dead after disputed results. Young people refused to accept what they viewed as stolen election. And in Madagascar, just in October 2025, the same month as this Tanzania's crisis, youth-led protests succeeded in overthrowing President Andry Rajoelina, not through military coup, not through external intervention, through sustained popular mobilization that made governance impossible. Tanzania's youth watched Madagascar. They saw that successful resistance was possible. They saw that presidents who appeared invulnerable could fall when people refused to accept illegitimate authority. So when Hassan eliminated Tanzania's opposition from the ballot, when she jailed leaders on capital charges for speech, when she deployed military forces against protesters, she sent a message to Tanzania's youth. But she also sent a message to young people across the region. If Hassan consolidates power through violence, if she successfully suppresses this uprising, if the international community accepts her fraudulent election, the message is clear. Authoritarian control works. Youth movements can be crushed. Democracy is negotiable. But if Tanzania's protests succeed, if sustained pressure forces genuine reforms, if Hassan is held accountable, if democratic space reopens, the precedent shifts dramatically, then the message becomes resistance works, youth power matters, democracy can be reclaimed. The stakes are high and they extend beyond symbolism. The East African Community headquarters sits in Arusha, Tanzania. Regional integration depends on Tanzania's stability. Plans for EAC monetary union, creating a common currency across the region.
Y'all hear that? This is why understanding geopolitics in Africa, the region you're interested in, is crucial. Arusha is the capital of the East African Community. Arusha is in Tanzania. Arusha is one of the cities that have been leading in the protests as well. So what he just said, this will spill over into other East African communities if they're too corrupt and they have a lot of issues. That's something that's very, very rampant in East Africa relative to somewhere like Southern Africa as a region.
Require political predictability. They proposed political confederation that would deepen cooperation among member states, assume functional governance in all participating nations. So, if Tanzania descends into prolonged crisis, if economic activity collapses under sustained protests and government crackdown, if refugees begin to flow into Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda, all regional integration initiatives face jeopardy. For Tanzania's Maasai communities, approximately 100,000 people disenfranchised through voter registration manipulation, facing forced evictions from ancestral lands in Ngorongoro Conservation Area. This crisis represents an existential question about who belongs in their own country. For Tanzania's journalists practicing self-censorship to avoid detention, watching colleagues disappear for covering opposition activities, unable to perform the basic democratic function of holding power accountable. This crisis determines whether journalism survives. And then for ordinary Tanzanians living in a climate of fear, where speaking critically in public could result in disappearance, where political participation means risking violence, this crisis is about whether they can shape their own future or must accept rule by force. The question isn't just what happens in Tanzania, it is what happens next across an entire region where youth populations are demanding change.
Yeah, he said it. What happens next?
Yep.
in a region that is demanding, not asking for change, demanding it. So our official statement, don't go to East Africa. I said I would, if I were y'all, I would not be in East Africa till maybe 2029, maybe 2028. I just wouldn't. I wouldn't do it because it takes time to stabilize yourself after stuff like that.
Yeah.
It took time. Burkina Faso is still stabilizing themselves. It takes time. Once it's the same thing, just like if trust is broken, it's hard to get back. It's the same type of analogy. Once peace is broken, it's very, very difficult. It takes a long time to get back. Because right now, the foreigners that are there, they're just kind of trapped, just kind of like, you know.
Yeah, that's something like, man. It just like everything takes time. I know. I say this time after time. Everything takes time. You have to know. This has been shared.
What is that?
I don't know. It just popped up. You just got to know everything takes time.
Yeah, it does. And so what foreigners are going through right now there, again, Tanzania's airport is closed as of right now. The internet is shaky. It's on and off. Okay? Still. Days afterwards. And so people just, this is new. People don't really know what to expect because remember, if you didn't know, Tanzania used to be the most peaceful country in East Africa. Literally the most peaceful. Flights are being canceled. You can't fly in the country. You can't fly out the country. The U.S. Embassy in this situation cannot help. The U.S. Embassy is telling Americans, basically, sit back, shelter in place, don't go into the city. Stay in your house. Don't go near the protests because that's literally all you can do. Countries all across the world have had to cancel their flights to Tanzania. Now, what this does from an economic business perspective for foreign investors, even China, even other people, they look at this. People don't invest money where they can't trust that it's going to be safe. So you're going to see certain businesses start to pull out and maybe they go to Kenya, maybe they go to Rwanda, maybe they go to Namibia, Botswana. They're going to start to see, okay, maybe we just pull out of this region altogether and we take our investment a little bit south. But they would want it in East Africa because the Swahili coast has that very close access to Asia, Europe, the Middle East, not necessarily Europe, but you have that access to the Middle East and Asia. Southern Africa is just going to be like a little bit further, but they're going to take out their investments and go south. They're going to slowly start to divest and say, okay, my money's not safe here. I can't even fly into here. They're just going to start selling off. You're going to see people selling off, businesses, companies.
Damn, that's deep. Because that's what, this is what we always say in our workshops. Do you want to invest somewhere where you can visit pretty much every couple months and then you have to leave, or maybe half the year or maybe a year and then you have to leave because your residency is not that long? You should invest somewhere where you can have the long-term residency, because that's very important. This is a perfect example of what could happen. Like you invest somewhere and then you can't enter.
Right. We have investments in Tanzania. Obviously, we can't enter. Quite clearly, can't enter right now. That ties up, we're young, so, we can come back 5-10 years later. That's fine. We're young. We have young children as well. But for you, you may be older. You may be like, I can't really take that risk. I'm not young anymore. Maybe you don't have a lot of children to where you can really pass down stuff. Maybe you don't have those connections. So for you, it may be safer. Let me just choose somewhere that has a proper retirement visa that's going to last longer than 2 years. Mauritius has one that lasts 10. Let me just go somewhere like Botswana where I can just have this ease of getting in because it's visa free for Americans for the first 90 days. Mm-hmm. Let me just go to Cape Verde because it's in West Africa, but it's an island nation that's growing strong in tech. And it's also another country on the least corrupt African countries list. Let me drop Cape Verde in the comments. I always forget Cabo Verde because it's on the West Coast. But that's another one that has a digital nomad visa. So it's really time to understand and discern what's happening. Now, authorities have imposed a nationwide curfew on the mainland to curb violence and prevent further escalation. Reports suggest that numerous roadblocks are obstructing access to airports, making it hard for travelers to reach and depart terminals. The ongoing unrest has also resulted in widespread internet and communication disruptions, complicating efforts to confirm flight statuses or reach customer support. Now, which airports? Dar es Salaam's the main one that you're going to go to in Tanzania. Typically, Julius Nyerere International Airport. So, international flights to and from. Highlight that in your notes. To and from have been significantly impacted, with Emirates Airlines, among others, suspending all services. So if you think the Arabs, they usually really love the Swahili coast, aren't looking at this and saying, okay, I'm telling you, these global entities and powers are looking right now and saying, okay, it's probably time to divest a little bit. If there's not going to be a lot of people going there, this flight route might just be canceled, right? Zanzibar, the island's main airport, Zanzibar International, is also facing canceled flights, making it a challenge for tourists and business travelers to depart or arrive. This is travelandtour.com. Kilimanjaro, which is in Arusha, another international airport, which serves as a gateway to the Northern Circuit's popular safari destination. So this is where you see a lot of the European-owned, Tanzanian-owned as well, safaris, okay? But these have experienced disruption. So how long before some of these safaris say, you know what, we're losing too much money? You know what, this is looking a little shaky, a little finicky. So you may be like, why is this one gone? Why does it have to continue? Can't they just open it back up? Well, you may not know African politics if you think it's about just open back up. The flight cancellations and delays are largely a result of the heightened political unrest following the general elections. The violence has led to security concerns at the airports, as well as blocked routes leading to terminals. When I tell you, we've lived in Tanzania, y'all. When I tell you there's one or two main roads that will take you to the airport, it's not hard in Tanzania to cut off every highway and have you so that you can't get from one place to the next when there's only one or two main highways. It's not like America. This is Africa. We've driven these roads dozens and dozens of times. From Tonga to Dar es Salaam, buses from Dar es Salaam to Tunduma. Once that, all they had to do is light a few tires on fire, and then that road is blocked. That's it. Sometimes even if a big tree falls across the road, it's going to be blocked out like that. This is why it's important to listen to people who have lived and traveled in these countries, because you bouncing back and forth between America doesn't give you the full picture. You bouncing back and forth and only being there for 60 days, that's not going to give you the full picture. But after you've literally driven these routes and you're like, oh, yeah, that would block. Yeah, you probably won't be getting to the airport if you block the Julius Nyerere International Road, because that's the main road that takes you to the airport. Meaning there's no other way into the airport unless you're finding some kind of side road. And then once you get there, you just got to sleep in the airport. Okay. So what are the official advisories for travelers? Several international governments, including the US and the UK, have issued travel advisories urging citizens to avoid traveling to Tanzania unless absolutely necessary. What qualifies as absolutely necessary? Not your vacation that you want to do. The advisory stresses the importance of staying indoors and remaining safe, as the unrest can escalate further. Travelers are urged to check with their airlines to confirm the status of their flights before making plans. The US and UK have recommended passengers avoid attempting to travel to these airports unless they've received clear confirmation that their flights are scheduled. If you don't want to listen, then you waste your time and your money, and you may not even be getting through. So again, the Emirates has suspended flights to Dar es Salaam, along with some Australian carriers that we saw earlier. So what should you do? Contact your airline, stay informed, to be prepared for delays, monitor the situation. How you monitor the situation? What we're doing right now. We're together monitoring the situation, because that's about all you can do. Now, if you're in the country, there's no monitoring the situation until the internet stays up for longer than 24 hours. What do you think of that? It's hard to monitor if you're there and you're just kind of on
Yeah, it's just
lockdown.
it's super real. That's what I have to say. You got to know this is real, and how's this gonna come out, because truth is coming out. That's how I'm seeing it. They can't cover some stuff up before. They probably could cover it up and get away with it, but it's coming down to a time where truth is going to stand, and you really can't get away with it. So of course they're going to be doing all this stuff, but the next week or so, there's a lot of things that's going to be coming out, that you got to pay attention to. So, you just got to be wise. We keep saying the same thing. You just got to be wise in these last days. You got to have a plan. You got to know what you are doing for the next couple years, not just like I'm gonna go there and make it work. I believe that time is a little bit over with now. It's really time to
A
plan
lot bit.
and pray and fast and
Yeah.
and really think about, like, okay, how can I be in a country, or a couple countries that's not super corrupt, to like live there, because most of these African countries, this is one thing a lot of people don't understand too. You got to be in a country for 5 consecutive years to apply for citizenship or long-term residency. You get what I'm saying? So
If not 10.
yeah, you have to do
Tanzania is
this.
10.
Yeah, you have
If they
to
let
do
you
this.
do that.
And that should kind of tell you, like, you got to have a plan. People don't just come over here. Like once you travel, you start to meet other nations that actually did this, that actually went through the process. And I'm not sure exactly the footsteps that they took and stuff like that, because you just never know. But if you see another nation that is not Tanzania with a Tanzanian passport, they probably been in that country for 10 years or longer,
If not
way
20.
longer. Yeah.
When it was even a different party that was in power, that's why
Yeah.
you have to assess what's actually happening in real time. Because Africa changes quick, y'all. That's what should be the main lesson that people are taking from this. Africa changes literally at the snap of a finger.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it just does. That's just Africa. It just, boom, it changes. It's not necessarily out of nowhere. If you just pay attention and just listen to the locals, then they'll tell you, but it seemingly comes out of nowhere for a lot of people. So the EU slams Tanzania's post-election crackdown as opposition cites mass killings. Does anybody know what the European Union is? Leave a comment if you do. The European Union is comprised of like 29 European countries, including France, Spain, Portugal, all those folks over there. So they're coming out on an international front and condemning what is happening. Okay. That should tell you something on a global stage. We have not heard this of like Cameroon, even though they're going through stuff. This is really hitting mainstream media pretty hard for whatever reason. So yeah, that's that. That's all we have. That is what we have.
Yeah, guys, if you
I'm
stayed
getting thirsty.
around this long, make sure you like the video. We are going to update the description, because we do have I'll let you go ahead, because you're good at that.
Check out the description, subscribe to members only, go to www.journeywithusmovetoafrica.com. We have the emergency state of the diaspora, because we're looking at true emergencies in Africa. There are people in Tanzania that once their internet comes back on, they're going to be emailing, hey, how do I get to where you are? We've already had that happen even with people in Kenya. Where should I go? They don't want to go back to America, which I don't blame them for. Some will go back to America. Some will go to Asia. Some will go wherever. But they're going, once that internet pops up, people are going to be looking, because they've had a lot of thinking time. They can't just swipe through their phone no more. No internet. You're just sitting there in the house.
And it's going.
Hopefully you packed a lot of food, because Tanzania food perishes quick because it's fresh.
And I say this, hopefully your visa was good when this happened, or your residency was good when this happened. The people that's expats in Tanzania, because if not, and they needed to leave like when this stuff was going on.
Oh, wow. Right.
That's where the really corruption's going on. Like they don't care.
Super corruption.
They gonna be like, you were supposed to leave. I couldn't leave. The airport was blocked. I couldn't leave. I couldn't go to the immigration to handle the paperwork. They gonna be like,
you should have found a way.
You should have found a way. It's not my fault. Now you gotta pay his money. So that, like, literally, that's what's gonna happen. And the people that know Africa, you know that will happen. Something
Just
like
subscribe
this
to members
will
only. You
happen
don't know.
in a country, blocked everything, and you got to get out. You was supposed to get out 3 days ago,
Because you
but
didn't
you
think the
couldn't.
protest was gonna last 2 weeks.
Now you in a
He
situation.
was like, I'm gonna be good.
You spending more money. Now you got to deal with them.
You like, shoot, all the other expats, they just chilling. Don't go with the crowd. The crowd can be loud, populist, and wrong.
Yeah,
As you see, the crowd can be loud, populist, and wrong, dead wrong. Because there's a lot of people stranded. There's a lot of people, you send a message via WhatsApp, it won't even deliver. Y'all know you got the one check mark, it didn't even deliver to the phone. You can't go to the cafe. You know, sometimes the electricity would go out in Tanzania. You're like, oh, let me just go to this cafe because when I go to the cafe, I'll just be able to charge my phone and it'll be fine. I can just do that. It's cool. It's on blackout. That means the cafe is not open. People are not going to work. Remember, y'all, we just listened to the video. If you're just coming in, you may want to rewind and listen to the whole video because it's not going to work. You got to go to the studio.
okay.
It's not going to work. That's not how it happens. It's not America. People don't understand that. And so when you think you know everything, but you just don't know, then it's an issue.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's important to speak to people. And like you were saying, there was a time, 2020, maybe even prior to 2020, you could just hop out. Everything's cool. Boom, bam. You can't necessarily do that now. You better speak to somebody on the ground that has lived there for quite a while and actually stays there and can fathom reality, because some people can't even just fathom reality. Some people, it's like everything's fine. It's like, nah, this guy just got his brain nearly chopped out, and you like it's not fine. Like it's not okay.
And
people
and
bleeding.
You don't have to deal with that. Like I truly believe like your environment will. That's very important. Like, who are you going to be around? What type of environment are you going to be around? Because just say if you are in a bad environment, that's going to affect you eventually. But
It does.
if you are in a good environment, you know, that's going to rub off on you.
Yeah.
So just make sure you check your environment. You gotta have the right people around you. You gotta have the people that's actually telling you the truth, because truth matters more than anything now. And if you don't see it, I don't know what to tell you. I really don't know what to tell you now. Stand up for truth, or you stand up for nothing.
Yeah.
That's what it's coming down to.
There's only two sides, light or darkness.
Exactly.
Light or darkness. You gotta choose one.
Yeah, check.
Obviously, the youth of Tanzania have chosen what side they're gonna be on. They're like, we gonna stand up for justice, for peace, for truth. Because as we saw in this video, if you haven't watched the full video, rewind, because again, they're saying over 83 people, this was before the protests even broke out, were silenced and went missing. This is not a European headline. These are Tanzanian, African, Swahili journalists on the inside telling you, you know, because a lot of people are like that, oh, it's just European proper. It's not. Everything's not Europe. Everything's not America. Plenty of Africa's problems are African originated issues.
Yeah.
Accountability. But Gen Z, they taking care of the accountability. They're like, it's okay. We're going to make it better for the future generations. But again, it might take a while. We just got to play it by ear. I'm going to tell you, I wouldn't go to Tanzania till at least 2028, but it very could possibly be beyond that. You just have to watch and see.
Yeah, you just got to pay attention. You just got to know how to move around. That's why I say everything takes time. It really does. You can't just pop somewhere and think that you know everything, because, of course, you're going to have to. Your environment is important. Like I just said, you gotta know how to move with with the people that's in that environment. Because if you come there acting like an American, you're not gonna last.
Or you be in situations like this and you're in lockdown.
Yeah.
Because the thing with the elections, people will warn you beforehand. Tanzanians will warn you and say, hey, like there's one person on Facebook who said, yeah, my tour guide, they told me, hey, you need to get out of this country. So they left the country, right? They left before the elections. It's not like it's just like, oh, crap, whoa. Like they know what's about to happen. They'll tell you and sit you down before the elections, the Tanzanians will, and let you know this is happening on this date. Either stay inside or leave. Choose one. Make sure you buy your food. You know, you ask them like, can I walk down the street? No. Can I do? No. So I can't get no food. No.
And Tony, I said 2021 or something. What?
It was 2020.
When
October.
Yeah, but I think Magufuli was good because a lot of people went. I'm talking about when he passed away. They were saying
March 2021.
Just calm. Don't do that. I think it was. This is way worse. I say that this is way worse.
Yeah, because we've lived through it in Tanzania. And it was nothing like that.
It's not no more like, oh, maybe you can't. No, you really can't. Really can't. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. You good?
Yep. Shalom, shalom. Adios. See you later. Bonjour. Yes. Bienvenue. Kwaheri.
Au revoir.
Good night. I'm thirsty.
Yes. Make sure you like the video, guys. Check the link in the description because we are doing a emergency state of the diaspora this Sunday, so we can really dig deep and talk about how to choose the right country, what type of things you need to look for, the corruption and everything like that. So, you know, check the links in the description and we will talk to you in the next video. Shalom, shalom.